Hi, you are welcome back. This is the continuation of our training on pre-qualification criteria in works contracts. The next thing we're going to consider in our criteria, in our list of criteria, is personnel capabilities. The applicant must be able to demonstrate having staff with extensive experience related primarily to the critical operational or technical skills required on the contract in question. The employer's requirement here should therefore be limited to key personnel like the project or contract manager, senior engineers and superintendents working directly under the project manager, who will be responsible for major segments of the work, environmental specialists, etc. Criteria of acceptability must be based on minimum number of years of experience in a similar position, a minimum number of years of experience and or number of comparable projects carried out in a specified number of preceding years, and such individuals must preferably have held posts of comparable authority for say 3 years with the company, so that key staff in executive side positions have sufficient knowledge of the company's management policies, procedures, and practices to act with confidence and authority within that framework. Another is access to critical equipment or specialized laboratories. It is usually unnecessary for pre-qualification to depend on the contractors owning readily available items of equipment or materials laboratories. The pass-fail criteria adopted should therefore be limited only to those bulky or specialized items that are critical for the type of project to be implemented and that may be difficult for the contractor to obtain quickly or hire on the local market. Examples may include items such as heavy lift cranes and piling barges, dredgers, tunnel boring machines, asphalt mixing plant, etc. It is acceptable if the company proves access to specialist subcontractors or equipment hire companies. The availability and commitment of such equipment subcontractors to rent the specified equipment should be clearly demonstrated by the applicant and be subject to verification or confirmation at bid submission or prior to contract award. The terms of any lease or hire agreement for equipment should preferably include a provision that the equipment will remain on site in the event of default by the contractor, thereby ensuring more timely continuity of work or services by a potential replacement contractor. Other requirements. The contract or the applicant must not have been convicted for fraud and corruption, must not have been found wanting with compliance with labor laws, environmental and other laws. He must have not been found wanting of payment of taxes and other social contributions. He must have good record of litigation or arbitration in previous contracts specific to World Bank and multilateral development banks. Joint venture pre-qualification criteria in works procurement. Joint venture pre-qualification criteria in works procurement. Joint ventures comprise two or more firms combining their resources together. Joint ventures are composed by bidders themselves in order for them to pool their resources to meet the employer's requirements and also to achieve some economies of scale based on skills and specialty and local knowledge. Employers may encourage joint venture with national bidders for the purpose of promoting the local construction industry, but they must not make it mandatory. The same criteria as above are applied for the pre-qualification of joint ventures or firms. Joint venture shall satisfy collectively some of the criteria and individually other criteria as well will be satisfied in the pre-qualification document issued by the employer. So the partners of a potential joint venture may add together their contributions to meet the following criteria as if they were a single company. 1. Average annual construction turnover. They will add them together. 2. Particular experience and key production rates. They must combine them as if it is one company. Cash flow requirements, personnel capabilities and equipment capabilities. Each partner must also meet specific minimum employer requirements concerning the following individual criteria. Number 1, general experience during a period of a specified number of years, adequate sources to meet financial commitment, financial capacity, and litigation history. At the time of pre-qualification, a potential joint venture shall provide a letter of intent to form a joint venture with joint and several liabilities, which shall be confirmed at the time of bidding by a joint venture agreement binding on the partners, though not necessarily registered or incorporated in the employer's country. A company may apply for pre-qualification either individually or as a member of one or more joint ventures. However, at the time of bidding, a firm which has been pre-qualified both individually and together with other firms in a joint venture can participate in one bid only. Joint ventures may be modified prior to submission of bids, subject to the written approval of the employer, and provided that the new JV structure, that is, modified joint venture with different partners individually and collectively, satisfy the pre-qualification criteria of the employer. Let's look at advantages and disadvantages of pre-qualification. Advantages. First, it saves cost of bidding for unqualified bidders. It enhances participation by qualified firms. It indicates likely interest of potential bidders. It identifies possible conflict of interest. It encourages joint ventures and pooling of resources. It establishes eligibility for domestic preference. It tests employers' procurement capability. Disadvantages. It may increase procurement lead time. It prolongs the procurement process. It requires reviewing all pre-qualification data versus only one or two at post-qualification. The subjective judgment or discretionary rights reserved to the employer may encourage corrupt practices in the evaluation of applicants. Let's look at the standard pre-qualification documents you can find in procurement management for works. Let's look at the standard pre-qualification document you can find in the procurement management for works. MDBs have issued standard pre-qualification documents that can be used by employers as a model for assessing the qualifications of potential applicants in works procurement. Through the pre-qualification documents, applicants are requested to demonstrate their respective credentials by filling standardized forms, allowing rapid comparison and evaluation by the employer. Standard documents generally follow a consistent structure, often divided into the following sections: in introduction and invitation to pre-qualify. This notifies potential applicants and provides project details. Another one, instruction to applicants. It provides information on preparing and submitting applications, including rules on opening and instructions. Pre-qualification data sheet. This acts as supplement or modifies the instruction to applicant with specific information regarding the particular project. Qualification criteria and requirements. This defines the criteria for evaluation, such as financial capabilities, experience in similar work, and available personnel equipment. Application forms include standard forms for submission, such as application submission sheet, company information, and financial capacity forms. Scope of work or eligibility countries outlines the nature of the work to be performed and defines the eligibility of applicants based on country of origin. Code of conduct for the contractor. Here, contractors' personnel, especially for the prohibition of sexual exploitation and abuse, and sexual harassment, plus other environmental expertise issues. Let's look at standard pre-qualification documents. Information that is disclosed by the buyer. Information disclosed by the employer to applicant. Number one, description of work, size, cost, quantities. Number two, type of contract. Number three, source of finance, terms of payment, implementation schedule, eligibility, language, procedures, pre-qualification requirements, pass-fail qualification criteria, data that is requested from applicants, minimum necessary to establish qualification, actual completion certificate needed, avoid recommendation letters. Data to be filled in the standard pre-qualification questionnaires. Ownership details. Other documents required under the law. Submission of applications prior to established deadline. Steps in pre-qualification pre-selection process. Number one, understand the scope delivery required. Advertisement. Create pre-qualification documents. Issue pre-qualification document to listed tenderers. Review responses from bidders. Recommendation to clients. Update tender bidder list. Notify listed tenderers. Issue tender documents. Thank you for watching. It has been great. This is the summary of this particular lesson. Summary of this lesson. We said pre-qualification is the assessment of bidders' qualifications before the bid evaluation process. We also said that the criteria used in pre-qualification include general experience, specific experience, financial capacity, personnel capabilities, access to critical equipment or laboratories, and other criteria that is permitted by the law and multilateral development banks. And finally, we said these criteria are used to assess individual companies, and similar criteria are used to assess joint ventures. Thank you for watching. It has been your friend Anderson Dumle Nagbe. See you in our next lesson.